been a while, but that's okay because it gives me lots of emotional drama to store up in my life to bring to you. I've got a surprise for you before I start. Are you ready? So this week, Chris Mabanga from Zambia sent me all the profiles for all the children. Well, not all of them. When I counted them, there were 63. And I do believe that there are 82 children in the school. But it just brings it so personally. So I've gone through every single child and looked them in the face and read their little profile. And it's just really personal now to us. And so I wanted just to share two with you. So this is the first one. This is Violet. Isn't she lovely? She's age 7 in grade 1. And the next one, I don't have favourites. I love Jocelyn more. No, I'm joking. This was kind of my favourite one. I sent this to Luke. Oh, isn't he cute? This is Gessom, and he's 9. Doesn't look 9, does he? But this is Gessom. So it's just really personal. I just wanted to share that with you. Isn't it amazing that we've got these little profiles of every kid now? So we're going to work on that and see what we can do with each profile. So watch this space. So we're in a series this coming weeks on Psalms, on life melodies on Psalms. And I think Psalms is a really cool book because it's kind of like the sitcom of the Bible, if you like. It's got lots of like one-liners in it. And it's got like a collection of really amazing stuff. It's got lots of snippets of wisdom in it. It maybe for you is the go-to book when you're tired and you're thinking, oh, I'll just read a Psalm. Or unless you go to Psalm 119 and you're there for 45 minutes. I don't know. But what it seems to me is that the book of Psalms is a real personal collection of prayers and experiences that people have experienced, intimate grumbles of people's lives and thanksgiving and praise. And I journal a lot, so I get this. I learned to journal when my kids were babies because, I love to pray out loud and walk around. That's because I'm a bit like that anyway. But I learned to journal when my kids were babies because you can't do that when they're asleep. You wake them up. So I kind of get it. But you can almost kind of see someone in Jerusalem, maybe in a palace somewhere or on a rooftop somewhere as the sun's coming up or the sun's going down, or maybe they're on a boat out in the Lake Galilee, I don't know, just sort of scribbling down their scribblings, all their thoughts and stuff. And I can kind of understand that. And it is something so personal. But how many of you know that it is God-breathed? The Psalms are God-breathed. How many of you know that being true and being real and being raw before the Lord is so powerful? It is so powerful. There's real wisdom in the Psalms, and there's revelation that changes lives and changes hearts and brings salvation to families and to homes. It is absolutely phenomenal. And as I was sort of preparing this and reading through the Psalms and thinking about stuff that I write down in the Psalms, I came to thinking that I wanted to share with you a little bit about how I got saved. And a few people have asked me about this before, like, oh gosh, how did you get saved? How did you come to know the Lord? But I just wanted to share a little snippet with you. My testimony is a lot bigger than this, and I have written it down. I wrote it. I used to blog. I don't anymore. I ain't got time. No, ain't nobody got time for that. So I used to blog on something called Tumblr. So if you do want to read it all, you can read it all. But this is just a little snippet. So I didn't become a Christian till I was 19 years old. And I grew up in a suburb of Manchester. I was a city girl. I grew up in a family, in a non-Christian family. My mum did go to a C of E church, but she wasn't saved. She is now, and still goes to a very similar church, but she is now. My father was a very heavy-handed man. I have to be very careful here because my mum and dad are still alive and they are very much a part of our lives. And so I need to be careful because, we want to respect them. But I have a great relationship with them now. Well, I have a great relationship with my dad. My relationship with my mother has always been difficult. But my dad was a very heavy-handed man. He was one of 6 children and was incredibly abused as a child. So he had no idea how to love. He never, ever told me he loved me. He never put his arm around me, never, ever gave me a hug until I was about 21. And so I have a great relationship with him now. He's now saved. He got saved a few years after I did, seeing the change that was in my life. Amazing. Have you ever so nervous telling you about my testimony? I think it's because you kind of lay things bare, don't you? But because of my upbringing and the way that I was, I craved attention. I craved love and attention from every corner of my life that I could. I was an only child till I was 9, and then my brother came along, and any attention that I did have went all over to him. I have a good relationship with my brother. So then, when I was about 8, when I left school, I went completely off the rails. I went to every corner of the universe I could to find love from any place I could. I went from boyfriend to boyfriend to boyfriend, one after another, friendship after friendship after friendship. I finally found a bit of a niche with a group of lads that were into car racing. Crazy. And the things that we used to get up to, well, I've written it all down in my blog, you can read it, but it was just, I just got myself into some dark holes, very, very dark spaces. I would drink myself into an absolute craze. I had my stomach pumped twice. It was just craziness. You name it, I've done it. Perhaps not hard drugs, but I've probably done a couple of the soft ones, if you can kind of call them that. But I told lies, just crazy, crazy stuff. And I was so low, I got myself so low, I couldn't find anyone that would love me. And I had a little job working for a sports company as a clerk, and I had an offer from a friend to go to Corfu while she was working there in the summer. So I went. I just went to Corfu and I was there, and I felt when I was there that I'd left all my troubles behind. All my troubles were in England. You know, there was no troubles on that sunbed. And nobody knew who I was there. Nobody knew my background. You know, nobody knew anything about me. And so I felt like all the troubles were in England and it didn't matter anymore. So I outstayed my welcome and I didn't get my flight home. And my dad, very stand-up guy, is an ex-Marine. So he's, you know, things go how he says they go. And you don't say no. And I was phoning him and he said, well, I'll keep your job for you. So he was kind of ringing them up every day and saying she's stuck in Corfu. I don't know what he said. But eventually, after about 2 weeks, he said to me, I'm not keeping your job for you anymore. And for some reason, that just did it for me, and I jumped on a plane home. As soon as I came home and touched down in Manchester, I received a phone call on my mobile. And it was a friend of mine who I'd lent some clothes from. And it's amazing what the devil deemed for bad, actually God turned around for good. Because that phone call changed my life. And this phone call was from a friend of mine, and I'd borrowed some clothes off her, and she was cross. She was like, where's my beep, 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 beep. You can imagine. And she called me every single name under the sun. She called everything that was wrong with my life, all the things that bothered me. You know, the fact that my parents didn't care about me, or which they did, but you know, it was just something that obviously bothered me. And the rejection and things like that had come with it. She called it all, every single thing. People are mean. And so I got off the phone and I was like, well, I've come back to it, Anna. There's nothing to live for. And it just absolutely floored me. I came home and I just decided that that was it. There was nothing to live for. I was 19 years old. There's nothing to live for. And I decided that I would take my life. I planned exactly how I was going to do it. And we had a guy living in our house at the time, because my mum went to a C of E church. We had, there was an internship that worked in that area in schools and youth work. And there was a guy called Andy, not my Andy, but he was living in our home. My mum had rented the church a room. Now, he never bothered me, although he did used to wait up for me when I'd go out drinking. And he'd wait up for me in the front room, and I'd come in and be like, hey, what are you doing? And he'd be talking to me about Jesus. I'd be like, oh, this Jesus, whatever, this Jesus. And but he just, you know, he did used to do that. But he never bothered me, really. He'd never come into my personal space. He'd never knock on my bedroom door, nothing. So I planned exactly how I was going to do this. And there's a little bit more in between, but I came to a point where I was super low, and I was planning out what I was going to do. And there was a knock on my door. I opened my bedroom door, and it was him. And he said, I don't know why I'm doing this. He said, but I just feel like God's just told me you're going to do something stupid. And I was so low and absolutely floored. I was like, how could you know that? How could you ever know what's in my head? I'd never told anyone. My mum and dad had no idea, nothing. How could you know that? And I was so low, he offered to pray for me, we chatted, and he prayed for me, and I can't explain what happened, but I didn't become a Christian right there and then, because I was very skeptical, and don't forget, I was a 19-year-old city girl. So I was like, whoa, stay away with your crazy Jesus. But I can't explain it, just this burden of rejection and this burden of the world sort of just came off my shoulders. I was just like, oh, that's weird, I just feel better. I went to work the next day and someone said, what's up with you? You've got a bit of a smile on your face. You never have a smile on your face. And something just sort of twigged in my mind like, whoa, this is weird. And so I gave God a week. Sort of put my fleece out. I gave him a week. I was like, okay, God, if you're real, prove it to me in a week. And you know what? I've never forgot that week. He absolutely chased me down. He chased me down from every corner. Money appeared in my bank. People knocked on my door. People were phoning me up. I went out with this guy who was living with us. He invited me out with his friends, and there was something about his friends that was so different. They weren't after one thing. All they wanted to do was just love on me in a different way. I was like, who are these people? Like, there was just something. It was crazy. People would say stuff to me on the street, and I'd be like, hey. It was just like God chased me down. And I can never, ever, ever even explain to you what happened that week. All I can say is that it was God chasing me down. And at the end of the week, in my bedroom, with my door closed, got down on my hands and knees in my bedroom and gave my life to Jesus. I said, God, you must be real. You must be real. And you care enough to chase me down, a 19-year-old sinner. You don't know what I've done. And you kind of think, well, he kind of said, I do know what you've done, Janine, but I love you anyway. And I couldn't believe that the King of Kings, the God of the world, cared enough to chase me down. And so I just was floored. I was like, God, I'm sorry. I'm yours forever. And that was it. I quit my job, quit the lifestyle, quit my friends. That was it. I was all in for Jesus from that moment on. And you know what? I didn't get saved because I heard an amazing preach. I didn't get saved because I went to an amazing church. And I didn't get saved because I saw an amazing miracle, although it felt like one inside. It was the pure love and acceptance that I suddenly felt like my life meant something. And I didn't have to strive for love anymore. I'd found it. I'd found the reason I was alive. You know how some people say like it's suddenly like your eyes are opened? And I can understand that because I literally suddenly felt like, oh, this is what it's all about. I literally felt like that. And so life went on and I got more and more involved in church. As I said, I quit my life. I quit everything and I went to work for a Christian organization actually, and an internship, kind of like a bit of a Bible study year, although it was an internship. And I got more and more involved in church and ministry, and I met lots of other Christians along the way. And I thought, Christians are nice, but they're still people. They're all still people. And how many of you know that people will still be people, right? We're all flawed and we're all human. And I made a couple of observations as the years went on, and my observations are this, that, you know what, some people will literally, and not you guys, because you're all amazing, right? Perfect church. That they will literally follow and worship a worship leader or a preacher. They will quote preachers rather than quote in the Bible. And another one of my observations was this, that my expectation of people is always going to let me down. My expectation of people, no matter how amazing they are, they're still human. You know, we're all still human. Luke, even though he's super funny and super cool pastor, he's still human. You know, nobody is perfect. He is super cool though, yeah. Can pay me for that later. And this is, the third observation that I made was this, that it's so prominent, that the enemy will weave his way into believers' hearts through the church, through friendships, through relationships, and through ministries, making people strive for a job and strive for a ministry and strive for a status or a position or strive for the stage or strive to be a musician. Strive for position and values. The enemy loves it and he will get in. And I'm preaching it because I've felt it myself. I have been right there, mates with the enemy, I'm telling you now. But you know what? God's heart through the Psalms is so simple. All the way through the Psalms, it's simple. It's this: love him first. Serve him and others humbly. And third, trust him. Fourth, and this is most importantly, is that he is enough. And this morning I want to communicate sensitively with you and lovingly and humbly that Jesus is enough for us. See, the truth is that if Jesus never did anything for us again, he already did enough on the cross. If God never ever answers another prayer for you or me ever again, he already did enough when he died as a sacrifice on that cross for us. It's simple. And Psalm 84, maybe you can stick it up on the PowerPoint. Psalm 84 verse 5 says, "Blessed are those whose strength is in you." Blessed are those whose strength is in you. Where does your strength come from this morning? What's your strength in? Is it in your job? Is it in your is it in your family? Is it in your ministry? Is it in your income, your money, your position, your status? Do you simply feel like you're doing your best for God when you're working? I don't know. I expect for most of us in the room that there is a little bit of strength in all of those things. Because I know for me that there is. You know, when somebody says to me, "Hey, what do you do for a living, Janine?" I say things like, "Well, I'm a nurse," or "I'm a volunteer for a charity." Because I find a bit of strength in that. You find a bit of identity in that, don't you? A little bit of strength. But if all those things were stripped away in our life, if all, your job, your status, your money, your house, if all those things were stripped away, could you simply say that your salvation is enough? And I know that's big this morning. Hear my heart. But is your salvation enough? The truth is that if God never did anything for us again, he already did enough on the cross. Psalm 34 verse 10 says, "But they that seek the Lord shall not want any good thing." How often we see the pleasures of this world and trusting in our abilities, even the lions suffer hunger. Psalm 146 verse 3, "Do not put your trust in princes and human beings who cannot save. When their spirit departs, they return to the ground, so that on that very day their plans come to nothing." And Psalm 119, there it is. "Turn my heart towards your statutes and not towards selfish gain." Psalm 119 verse 2, "Blessed are those who keep his statutes and seek him with all their heart." You see, in this verse, Psalm 84 verse 5, it says, "Blessed are those whose strength is in you." Blessed. You see, when we put him first, we realize that there's no striving and there's no wanting to be someone. Having a salvation in him, in Jesus, is enough. I don't know about you, but I want to be blessed. I really do want to be blessed. And I don't think this verse necessarily means like you'll be blessed by getting stuff, like you'll be blessed by lots of money or lots of things. I don't think it means that, but there is a promise in the Bible that says, that God sees your heart and he will bless you. Because, and the anthem for my life, my favorite verse in all the Bible is Matthew 6:33 that says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and the rest will be added onto you." But I think this is a blessing that that is a freedom. It's a freedom because being blessed sometimes can feel so free. Just a freedom is a blessing. You know what I mean? It's knowing, it's a total security in him. It's a knowing that you've only got eyes for God. You've only got eyes for God. You haven't got eyes for somebody else to look at you. And I'm going to be totally vulnerable here. I'm just putting myself out. A couple of weeks ago, I'm stood down here on the front row and I was hosting the service. And Pastor Dave got up and very, very humbly got up on the microphone and publicly declared his love for Andy and for Luke and Leah. and said, we want to really honor our pastors and want to honor Andy, who's, doing an amazing job. And I'm stuck down there, I'm thinking, well, what about me? Well, I'm a hosting the service, I'm pretty good too. And I just felt the tap of the Holy Spirit. Just say, whose eyes do you want, Janine? Whose eyes are you after? And I was like, all right, God, I only want eyes for you. A two-way thing. I only want eyes for you, and I only want your eyes. I just want your eyes, and it's a freedom. It was a freedom right there. I'm like, yeah, that's the blessing. Blessed are those whose strength is in you. Oh, that's a freedom right there. Psalm 30 verse 7 says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways. And last but not least, I just want to share this beautiful story with you from Luke 10. And it's a well-known story about Mary and Martha. And it's just a beautiful story about how Jesus declares that he's enough in a way that we can all refer to, especially us women. Oh, no, that's where I'm reading. So, Luke 10, 38, it says, as Jesus and the disciples continued on their journey, they came to a village where a woman welcomed Jesus into her home. Her name was Martha, and she had a sister named Mary. Mary sat down attentively before the Master, absorbing every revelation he shared. But Martha became exasperated by finishing the numerous household chores in preparation for her guests. So she interrupted Jesus and said, Lord, don't you think that it's unfair that my sister left me to do all the work by myself? You should tell her to get up and help me. The Lord answered her, Martha, my beloved Martha, why are you so upset and troubled, pulled away by all these many distractions? Are they really that important? Mary has discovered the one thing most important by choosing to sit at my feet. She is undistracted, and I won't take this privilege from her. You see, firstly, we see here that Martha is the one that opens her home to Jesus. She's the one that opens her home and welcomes him in, just as we do all of us. We say, okay, Jesus, come into my house. Come into my life, be a part of it, walk alongside me, I'll accept you, yes, Jesus. And then what we see is that she becomes exasperated by doing loads of different things because she's got Jesus in her house. And that is just like all of us, like, so we need to do this, or we need to do that, yeah, we'll do a food bank. Whoop, I'm spitting. Yeah, we'll do a charity shop. Yeah, we'll go out to Zambia and partner with a school in Zambia. Yeah, we'll do a coffee shop. Yeah, we'll do kids clubs. Yeah, we'll do holiday clubs. Yeah, we'll go into the community. Yeah, we'll do all these different things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, yeah, we'll get that job. Oh, I've got a house now. I need to earn money. I've got to do this. Oh, yeah, I'll go over here and I'll do this. And I'll go to uni and I'll do all that. And you get exasperated because you've got Jesus in your life and you need to do all these different things for him because you want a crown in heaven when you die. And that's okay. But we get exasperated doing them. And we get distracted doing them sometimes. And that's where the enemy, remember, my third observation, the enemy starts weaving his way in, gets you distracted. But then we see that Martha does this. She interrupts Jesus. Hey, Jesus! How many of us do that? And we're over here, and we've got this posture, and we're going, Jesus, just a minute. I'll just interrupt you a second. Can you just help me here? I'm pretty busy. I really need you to do this for me. I really need you to help me make more money. I really need you to, just help me with my kids. I really need you to help me with my ministry. It's all a bit much for me. Isn't that just exactly how sometimes we get so distracted? Don't you think, she says this, don't you think it's unfair that I'm busy doing all this? Now, get my heart here, there's nothing wrong with working for Jesus because, when you have God's heart, you do. But it's when we become distracted. We get so distracted. But then Jesus answers her this. And there's a release right here. Jesus says this. He says, Martha, my beloved Martha. See, even in all that busyness, Jesus just loves her. is passionate about her. And there's a release for someone in the room right here today that maybe if you're feeling like you're distracted, you're exasperated, you've been distracted by something else in your life. You still love Jesus, but you are so distracted that Jesus says, my beloved, come on, my beloved Martha. And he says this, why are you so upset and distracted doing all them numerous chores in your job and looking after your kids all the time and getting so distracted, pulled away by all the many distractions? Are they really that important? Well, looking after your kids is important. Mary has discovered the one thing most important by choosing to sit at my feet. Maybe you just need to sit at the feet of Jesus this morning. Maybe you just need to for a moment, just put him first and say, you are enough for me. If all that stuff was taken away, you are enough. You know, what is your posture? What is your posture? Is your posture this? Oh, yes, Jesus, yes, Jesus, yes, Jesus. Your posture's this all the time, busy, busy, busy. Or is your posture this? Maybe your posture just needs to be this. She is undistracted, Jesus says, and I will not take this privilege from her. I don't want to have this privilege ever taken from me to ever say that he is enough for me. And that's hard. It's hard when I'm in this time of life where I'm in my late 30s. You know, that I've got kids and I've got a job and I've got a whack-off mortgage, you know, just all that stuff. And I've got other stuff going on like Chifubu and working with One by One and working with church and all that other stuff. But I always want to be able to say that Jesus is enough for me. He's enough. And he's enough for you. If all that stuff was taken away, he is enough. He can sustain your life. What is your posture? I've asked Andy just to come and just sing this song, and maybe some of you know it, but it's by a guy called Cody Cairns, something like that. But and it's called Nothing Else, and you've probably heard it, but when I heard it, I felt like the Holy Spirit asked me to repent. And I got face down in my front room and just repented for all the times that I've ever wanted the stage, or I've ever wanted to be seen, or I've ever wanted to be someone, or to work hard, or get exasperated just ignoring Jesus, because he will always have to be the one that is enough for me. Because that stuff, that posture won't sustain me, but he will. And so I just want Andy just to sing that over you, and wherever you are, you can stand, you can sing, you can get down on your hands and knees, you can cry, you can do whatever, you can pray, you can come to the front. Our prayer team are always around to pray for you, whatever you want to do, okay? We're a free church. But I just want him to sing it over you, and I want you just to come back to the heart of Jesus. And just last but not least, some of you know that I'm really good friends with a lady called Becky Murray. She runs an international ministry. She started a children's home in 2012 that is famous. She has saved 70, 80 plus babies off the street and now has a successful children's home. She's got hundreds of other children in the community. She also runs an international ministry working with girls with imperial poverty and teaching them about sex trafficking. And she is well known. And you could say she's one of these preachers that people know. And she knows that. She understands where God's put her in the world. But as you know, I'm friends with her, and I get the privilege of traveling with her a lot. I take her places when she's preaching just to do a back table. I love it. Get free tea and coffee all the time. But I was just driving home with her the other day, and we got chatting, and I said to her, you know, Becky, have you thought about what's going to happen when you leave this earth? What's going to happen to the ministry? She said, yeah, you know, we were chatting, and she said, oh, I've got a few ideas. But then we started talking about if all that ministry was taken away from her. And she said this exact thing. She said, that, Janine, is where I realized that Jesus is enough for me. Now, that's a big thing for her to say that, because She's got a lot of stuff on her shoulders. She's got an international ministry. A lot of children rely on her for food and clothing and life, basically. But that is someone whose posture is this. Now, she would probably say it's not, because I know how humble she is. She would say that she's too exasperated doing all that stuff, but I know that her posture is that she knows that Jesus is enough for her. And that's probably why God uses her. And so let's just let Andy sing this song over you this morning. You know, what is your posture? That Jesus is enough for you. He really is. It always will be that if he never did anything for us again, he already did enough on the cross. So, just hear my heart with this. You know, he loves you and he just wants you to come back. Come back to that moment when I got down on my knees on my bedroom floor and said, God, I surrender. You're enough for me. Maybe you just need to come back to that moment when you first gave your life to Jesus and just say, yeah, I remember that. You're enough. Thank you.